Imagine waking up in medieval Japan, not in a palace or a respected warrior's house, but in a hut made of rotting wood and cold regret. The year is 1584, and you've just been born in the dusty, forgettable village of Miyamoto. And no, that's not a title. It's your literal address. Your name? Benosuke. You don't know it yet, but one day that name's going to mean nothing. The name everyone will remember you by, though, is Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman Japan has ever known. But before you get excited, here's the twist. Your life kinda sucked. Not in a forgot my umbrella and it rained way. More like raised by a psychopath, constantly hunted, sleep with one eye open, hope you don't die horribly in your teenage years kind of way. Do you think life handed him some kind of cheat code because he became one of the greatest swordsmen who ever lived? Spoiler alert, nope. In fact, if you had walked a mile in Musashi's sandals, and trust me, they weren't exactly Air Jordans, you'd understand why his life wasn't nearly as glamorous as people make it out to be. So buckle up, grab your katana-shaped stress ball, and prepare yourself for a story about struggle, sacrifice, and survival. Because tonight, we're diving deep into why it sucked to be Miyamoto Musashi. But first, hey, don't forget, if you enjoy what I'm doing here, give this video a big thumbs up, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this journey, and drop a comment below telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Seriously, I love seeing how many corners of the globe we've got covered. Now dim the lights, maybe pour yourself a cup of tea or sake if you're feeling authentic. And let's step back into feudal Japan together. Let's rewind to the beginning, shall we? Picture this. You're born in 1584 in a small village called Miyamoto. Your mom gives you the unfortunate name Benosuke. Yeah, not exactly legendary warrior material, right? Oh, and by the way, she dies during childbirth. Tough break. Lucky for you, though, or unlucky, depending on how you look at it, she remarried a guy named Shinmen Munasai before passing away. He becomes your stepdad, and while he might have been an incredible swordsman, he's also supremely abusive, like cartoon villain levels of mean. So yeah, your childhood is off to a rough start. You grow up without parents who nurture you emotionally or encourage hobbies like painting flowers or writing poetry. Instead, every day feels like another round in the school of hard knocks. Munasai trains you relentlessly, pushing you harder than any modern-day coach would dare. Sure, he teaches you skills that'll save your life later, but at what cost? By the time you're old enough to question authority, resentment toward him has already taken root. And guess what? That bitterness follows you everywhere you go. Now, imagine hitting puberty under these conditions. Most kids deal with awkward growth spurts and acne, but you shoot up to 6 feet tall in a land where most men barely reach 5.5. Suddenly, you're towering over everyone else, which makes you stand out in all the wrong ways. People start looking at you differently, not just because of your height, but because there's something fierce in your eyes. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's determination, or maybe it's just hunger, since food probably wasn't always plentiful. In your house? And speaking of standing out, remember that whole Warring States period thing happening around you? The Sengoku Jidai? Yeah, that's still going strong. Everyone's picking sides, preparing for battles, and trying to survive amidst chaos. Even your stepdad decides to throw his lot in with Tokugawa, the eventual winners of this bloody conflict. But here's the kicker. Despite siding with the winning team, neither you nor Munasai managed to participate in the climactic battle of Sekigahara. No glory, no heroic last stands, nothing. Just sitting on the sidelines while history unfolds. Without you. Talk about anticlimactic. Fast forward a bit, and now you're 15 years old. Puberty has turned you into a walking tank of muscle and testosterone. One day, some guy named Tatsumaki Akiyama shows up and challenges you to a duel. Not a friendly sparring match, mind you, an actual fight to the death. What choice do you have? Refusing would mean losing face, and in this society, honor is everything. So you accept, show up, and kill him. Just like that. No hesitation, no remorse. This moment marks the beginning of your transformation from boy to man, but also from human being to weapon. Congratulations! By the way, killing someone at such a young age doesn't exactly sit well with everyone around you, especially your uncle, who happens to be the voice of reason in your chaotic life. He sees potential in you, sure, but he wants you to seek enlightenment rather than violence. For a brief moment, you listen to him. You try to follow his path, hoping for something better. But deep down, you know this isn't the life he envisioned for you. Something inside whispers that you're destined for greater things, or at least bloodier ones. So you change your name to Miyamoto Musashi, leave home, and set out on a quest to become the greatest warrior Japan has ever seen. Sounds exciting, right? Wrong. Along the way, you realize that greatness comes at a steep price. Every victory leaves scars, physical, emotional, psychological. Every decision forces you to choose between survival and morality. And every relationship you form ends either in betrayal or heartbreak. Trust me, the legend of Miyamoto Musashi may sound cool in hindsight, but living it? That's a different story entirely. So, you've left your uncle's home. You're no longer Benosuke, now you're Miyamoto Musashi, a name that feels heavier, somehow like it carries the weight of everything you want to become. But let me tell you something. Changing your name doesn't magically erase the baggage you bring with you. Sure, you've got ambition, raw talent, and a chip on your shoulder big enough to carve out a mountain. But what you don't realize yet is that every step forward will feel like wading through quicksand. Every victory will come at a cost, and every decision will leave scars, not all of them visible. By the time you hit puberty, life has already handed you more curveballs than most people face in an entire lifetime. Your mom died giving birth to you. Your stepdad was abusive until he kicked you out. Your uncle tried his best to guide you down a peaceful path, but fate, or maybe just bad luck, kept pulling you back toward violence. And now here you are, towering over everyone else at 6 feet tall, which might sound cool if this were modern times, but trust me, in feudal Japan, standing out isn't always a good thing. Let's talk about that height for a second. Being taller than almost everyone around you means people notice you a lot. Some admire your stature, others fear it. Either way, you can't blend into the crowd anymore, even if you wanted to. Imagine walking into a village square and having heads turn because you're basically a giant compared to the locals. Sounds intimidating, right? Well, it gets worse when those same villagers start whispering rumors about how you killed someone in a duel last year. News travels fast in small towns, especially when bloodshed is involved. Suddenly, everywhere you go, eyes follow you, not out of respect, but out of suspicion. And then there's the war brewing around you. Remember the Sengoku Jidai, the warring states period? Yeah, that's still going strong. Everyone's picking sides, preparing for battles, and trying to survive amidst chaos. Even your stepdad decides to throw his lot in with Tokugawa, the eventual winners of this bloody conflict. But here's the kicker. Despite siding with the winning team, neither you nor Munisai managed to participate in the climactic battle of Sekigahara. No glory, no heroic last stands, nothing. Just sitting on the sidelines while history unfolds without you. Talk about anticlimactic. But hey, don't worry, you'll find plenty of opportunities to make up for lost time. Spoiler alert, they won't. Be fun. Take Tatsumaki Akiyama, for example. He's the first real challenge you face after leaving your uncle's care. The guy shows up one day, full of bravado, challenging you to a duel. What choice do you have? Refusing would mean losing face, and in this society, honor is everything. So you accept, show up, and kill him. Just like that. No hesitation, no remorse. This moment marks the beginning of your transformation from boy to man, but also from human being to weapon. Congratulations, Here's the thing about killing someone at such a young age. It changes you. Not immediately, not in obvious ways, but subtly. Like cracks forming in a vase. It might look fine on the surface, but inside, it's breaking apart. For you, each death adds another layer of isolation. Friends drift away. Potential mentors shy off. Even lovers hesitate before getting too close. Because who wants to cozy up to a guy whose reputation precedes him as the dude who kills people? But loneliness isn't the only price you pay for greatness. Oh no, there's also paranoia. Once word spreads about your skills, rival swordsmen start coming out of the woodwork. Some seek revenge for fallen comrades, others aim to prove themselves by taking you down. Either way, you never know who's friend or foe anymore. Walking into a tavern becomes less about grabbing dinner and more about scanning the room for threats. Sleeping at night turns into a series of restless tosses. Hand-eye, hovering near your katana just in case someone tries sneaking up on you. Speaking of paranoia, remember Denito Yoshio? His family didn't take kindly to their brother getting sliced in half during that ambush-turned-duel. Revenge runs deep in these clans, and soon enough, Denito steps forward to reclaim his family's honor. Unlike previous opponents, though, he doesn't issue a straightforward challenge. Nope, he invites you to fight under the guise of fairness, but really, it's a trap. Lucky for you, instincts honed from years of survival kick in. Instead of showing up late like usual, you arrive early and hide behind a tree. Good call, by the way, because when the Yoshio mob arrives armed to the teeth, you know exactly what kind of welcome party awaits you. The ambush itself plays out like something straight out of an action movie. You jump out from hiding, slice the youngest member clean through, awkward, I know, and then dive headfirst into combat against dozens of angry students. Swords clash, arrows fly, spears jab, all while you dodge, parry, and counterattack like a whirlwind of steel and fury. By the time you escape alive, adrenaline courses through your veins so intensely that you barely register the exhaustion setting in. Victory tastes sweet, but it leaves a bitter aftertaste too, because deep down, you know this won't be the last time someone tries to kill you. All right, so here's where things get even messier. You've survived the ambush by the Yoshio clan, barely. That was no ordinary duel. It was a bloodbath. And while you managed to walk away alive, trust me when I say this, killing a kid isn't exactly the kind of thing that earns you bragging rights. Sure, in feudal Japan, honor and survival often went hand in hand, but there's something about slicing through a 12-year-old boy that sticks with you. Maybe not right away, but eventually those moments come back to haunt you like ghosts. Now, picture yourself limping out of Kyoto after that fight. Your body is battered, your mind is racing, and somewhere deep inside you're questioning whether this whole becoming the greatest warrior thing is worth it. Spoiler alert, you don't stop. Because quitting isn't an option, not for someone like you. But let's talk about what happens next, because surviving one ambush doesn't mean the world suddenly decides to leave you alone. After escaping Kyoto, you start wandering again. This becomes your MO, doesn't it? Moving from town to town, picking fights, or having them picked for you, because staying still feels too much like waiting for death to catch up. But this time, as you travel, you can't shake off the memory of Yoshio Sajudo's face. The headmaster wasn't just some random opponent. He remembered your stepdad Munasai, who once humiliated his family by defeating their best swordsman. So naturally, they saw you as unfinished business, and now you've made it personal. Let's rewind for a second and talk about Munasai. Yeah, the guy who raised you, or at least tried to before giving up entirely. He might not have been Father of the Year material, but he did pass down some valuable skills, like how to wield a sword with precision or how to read people's intentions before they act. Unfortunately, he also taught you pride, which is both a blessing and a curse. Pride keeps you moving forward when everything else tells you to quit, but it also blinds you to consequences until it's too late. Back to the road. As you wander, word spreads about what happened in Kyoto. Some call you a monster for taking down an entire school. Others whisper that you're unbeatable, untouchable, a force of nature disguised as a man. Either way, fame has its downsides. Every village you enter, heads turn. People either want to challenge you or avoid crossing paths altogether. Neither reaction makes life easier. In fact, isolation starts becoming your constant companion, not the romanticized loner hero type either. No, this is the kind of loneliness that gnaws at your soul, reminding you daily that nobody truly understands what you've been through. But hey, at least you're getting stronger, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally, you're evolving into a weapon unlike anything the world has ever seen. Except weapons don't think, they don't feel guilt or regret. And every time you close your eyes, flashes of past battles play behind your eyelids like a slideshow of horrors. The faces of the fallen linger longer than they should. Tatsumaki Akiyama, the first person you killed in cold blood, Denito Yoshio, and his mob of students, even the nameless peasants caught in the crossfire of your endless quest for greatness. Each death chips away at whatever humanity remains inside you, and then there's the practical side of being perpetually hunted. Sleeping under the stars sounds poetic until you realize you're never fully safe. Every rustle in the bushes could be an assassin. Every shadow might belong to someone looking to make a name for themselves by ending yours. You learn to sleep lightly, always within arm's reach of your katuna. Paranoia becomes second nature, blending seamlessly into your already chaotic existence. One night, while camping near a river, you hear footsteps approaching. Instinct kicks in immediately. You grab your blade and crouch low, scanning the darkness for movement. Turns out it's just a traveling merchant passing through. Harmless enough, sure, but the encounter leaves you rattled. What if it hadn't been harmless? What if tomorrow night brings someone less forgiving? These kinds of questions keep you awake long after the fire dies down. Eventually, though, you reach another town. This one feels different somehow. Quieter, less hostile. For a moment, you allow yourself to relax, to believe maybe you've earned a temporary reprieve from chaos. That's when he shows up, Arma Daisuke, a local mercenary known for his brutal efficiency. Word travels fast, remember? So naturally, he's heard about you and wants to test his skills against yours. He challenges you to a duel, and despite your better judgment, you accept. The duel itself plays out like something straight out of a legend. Arma swings his sword with ferocity, aiming to cleave you in half. You dodge, counter, and manage to knock his weapon from his grasp, using nothing but a wooden stick. Victory tastes sweet until you see the look in his eyes. Confusion mixed with fear. On instinct, you strike him down before he can recover. Another life lost. Another ghost added to your growing collection. So, you've survived another round of chaos. The ambush by the Yoshio clan is behind you, for now. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't over. Revenge has a way of lingering in feudal Japan, like smoke that refuses to clear from a burning house. And speaking of houses, yours doesn't exist anymore. Not really. Your life isn't tied to any one place, any one person. It's scattered across battlefields, duels, and restless nights spent staring at the stars while wondering if tomorrow will bring another fight, or just death. You're wandering again, as usual. This time, though, something feels different. Maybe it's because you're older now, wiser, or at least more jaded. Or maybe it's because fate decides to throw you a curveball in the form of your stepdad, Munisai. Yeah, him. The guy who raised you with fists instead of hugs, who trained you relentlessly, but never once told you he was proud of you. Remember him? Turns out, even abusive mentors can have second thoughts. He sees you now, not as the scrawny kid he abandoned years ago, but as a man who's made a name for himself through sheer grit and violence. Musashi tracks you down, and for a moment, you wonder if this is another trap. But no, it's real. He wants to reconnect, to teach you something new, something strange. A fighting style he developed using both a sword and a jita, a short metal truncheon with a hook designed to disarm opponents. You listen, partly out of curiosity and partly because deep down you still crave his approval. Even after everything, some part of you hopes he'll finally say those words, "I'm proud of you," but he doesn't. Instead, he shows you techniques that challenge everything you thought you knew about combat. Dual-wielding weapons? That's not exactly standard practice in samurai circles. Most warriors stick to a single blade, trusting precision over quantity. But Musashi insists there's power in versatility. By combining offense and defense into one fluid motion, you can control the battlefield before your opponent even realizes what's happening. At first, you resist. Change is hard, especially when you've already proven yourself capable of winning fights your way. But eventually, you start experimenting. You adapt his teachings to your own evolving style, incorporating two swords instead of one. It's awkward at first, like trying to write with your non-dominant hand, but slowly it clicks. Suddenly, you're not just a warrior, you're a force of nature. Your movements become unpredictable, almost poetic. One sword attacks, while the other defends, creating a deadly dance that leaves enemies stunned and spectators awestruck. By the time you turn 23, this dual sword technique becomes your signature move. People talk about it in hushed tones, calling it Niten Ichi Ryu, two heavens, one style. Some call it genius, others call it madness. Either way, it sets you apart from every other swordsman in Japan. But here's the thing about standing out. It comes with consequences. Every duel you win only adds fuel to the fire of resentment burning among rival schools. Every victory makes you more enemies than allies. And every step forward feels like walking further into quicksand. Speaking of quicksand, let's talk about Kyoto again. Because despite surviving the Yoshio ambush, you haven't exactly escaped their wrath. Denito Yoshio, the headmaster's brother, isn't about to let you walk away unscathed. He challenges you to a rematch, framing it as a matter of family honor. Of course, you accept. Refusing would mean admitting weakness, and that's not an option. Besides, running away won't solve anything. If anything, it'll make you look like a coward, which is worse than losing. The duel takes place on neutral ground, far enough from Kyoto to avoid drawing attention, but close enough for word to spread quickly afterward. Denito arrives armed. With a katana, his expression unreadable. You show up with your wooden stick, confident in your skills. The fight begins, and immediately you notice something different about him. Unlike his late brother, Denito fights smart. He studies your movements, looking for patterns, weaknesses. For the first time in a long time, you feel genuinely challenged. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours as you trade blows. Denito's blade slices through the air with precision, forcing you to dodge and counter faster than ever before. But then, instinct kicks in. You switch to Niten Ichiryu, wielding both your wooden stick and a makeshift jita-like object you grabbed earlier. The change throws him off balance, giving you the opening you need. With a swift strike, you knock his sword from his grasp. Victory is yours, but only technically, because here's the thing. Denito doesn't beg for mercy. He doesn't collapse. In defeat, instead, he stares at you with a mixture of respect and hatred, silently vowing that this isn't over. And honestly, you believe him. Feuds like these don't end with a single duel. They fester, growing darker and more dangerous with each passing day. As you walk away from the battlefield, you can't shake the feeling that you've only delayed the inevitable. This pattern repeats itself endlessly. Duel after duel, victory after victory. You carve out a reputation as someone untouchable, but at what cost? Each fight chips away at whatever innocence remains inside you. Each death adds another layer of isolation between you and the rest of humanity. By the time you hit your mid-20s, you're no longer Benoski or even Miyamoto Musashi. You're something else entirely, a weapon shaped by decades of bloodshed and betrayal. And yet, despite all this, there's still a flicker of hope buried deep within you. Somewhere along the way, you realize that greatness isn't just about killing people. It's about leaving something behind, something meaningful. Whether it's a legacy, a philosophy, or simply a story worth telling. But we'll get to that later. For now, suffice it to say that the road ahead is long, lonely, and fraught with challenges. And as much as you might want to stop to walk. Away from the endless cycle of violence, you know one thing for certain: legends aren't born overnight. They're forged in fire. You've survived Kyoto, but let's not kid ourselves. Survival isn't the same as thriving. The ambush by the Yoshio clan might be behind you, but the scars it left aren't just physical. Every life you take adds. Another goes to your growing collection, and every victory pulls you further away from the person you used to be. At this point, you're not Benoski anymore. You're not even Miyamoto Musashi in the traditional sense. You're something else entirely, a weapon forged through bloodshed, betrayal, and relentless struggle. But here's the thing about weapons: they don't rest, they don't heal, and they certainly don't get second chances. So instead of slowing down, you keep moving forward, because stopping means thinking, and thinking leads to questions you're not ready to answer. Questions like, why am I doing this? What's the point of all this violence? Is greatness worth the cost? Let's talk about what happens next. After escaping Kyoto with your life intact, barely, you wander into the Mie Prefecture. It's quieter here, or at least it seems that way at first. But peace is fleeting when you're someone like you. Word spreads quickly about your reputation, and soon enough, a new challenger emerges. His name is Sashito, and he's unlike anyone you've faced before. Instead of wielding a standard katana or wooden sword, his weapon of choice is a kusarigama, a ipoa sickle with a heavy chain attached to it. At first glance, it looks awkward, almost comical. How much damage could a farmer's tool possibly do against a master swordsman like yourself? But appearances can be deceiving. Sashito knows exactly how to use his weapon, attacking from long range with the chain while keeping the sickle close for close quarters combat. He's trying to wrap the chain around your blade, not to disarm you necessarily, but to immobilize you long enough to strike with the sickle. One wrong move, and you'll find yourself sliced open like a fish on a butcher's block. The duel begins, and immediately you realize this isn't going to be easy. Sashito is fast, unpredictable, and ruthlessly efficient. The chain whips through the air with deadly precision, forcing you to stay on the defensive. For the first time in a long time, you feel genuinely outmatched. But then something clicks. You remember a lesson from your stepdad, Munasai. Every opponent has a pattern. Find it, exploit it, and win. So you watch closely, studying Sashito's movements until you spot the tell, a slight hesitation before each swing of the chain. That split-second pause is all you need. With lightning speed, you dodge the chain, step inside his reach, and strike. The wooden stick in your hand connects with his wrist, knocking the sickle from his grasp. Before he can recover, you press, your advantage, delivering a final blow that sends him sprawling to the ground. Victory is yours, but only technically. As Sashito stares up at you, his expression unreadable, you can't shake the feeling that this fight wasn't truly over. Some battles leave wounds that never fully heal, and this was one of them. After the duel, you continue wandering, searching for meaning in a world that seems determined to break you. Along the way, you meet another opponent who challenges everything. You think you know about combat. His name is Muso Gonosuke, and he's exceptionally skilled at fighting with a bow staff, a long wooden pole designed for both offense and defense. When you first encounter him, he attacks without warning, catching you off guard. But you adapt quickly, using a technique you've been developing called the Guji-do. With a single strike, you disarm him, leaving him stunned and defeated. For most people, losing would be the end of the story. But not Muso. Humiliated but determined, he retreats to a Shinto monastery to reflect on his failure. There he develops a new style of fighting using a shorter staff called a jo. Months later, he finds you again, eager for a rematch. This time, the fight is closer, so close that you call it a draw. It's a rare moment of mutual respect between two warriors who understand the true cost of their craft. But even as you part ways, you know one thing for certain: the cycle of violence will never truly end. Years pass, and you find yourself drifting from place to place, taking odd jobs to survive. You work as a construction supervisor for a while, then join the shogun's forces to quell rebellions. You adopt children, hoping to build a family, but tragedy strikes when one of them commits seppuku. Pain becomes a constant companion, shaping you in ways you don't fully understand yet. By the time you're 48, you finally discover your true passion: painting and poetry. These pursuits offer a glimpse of beauty in a world dominated by chaos. But they can't erase the memories of everything you've done, and then there's the pain: physical, emotional, spiritual. Neuralgia sets in, burning through your body like wildfire. Simple tasks become unbearable, and the once mighty warrior is reduced to living alone in a cave called Riando. Yet even in isolation, you refuse to give up. Using whatever strength remains, you begin writing your final masterpiece, the Book of 5 Rings. In its pages, you pour everything you've learned about strategy, philosophy, and the art of war. It's not just a manual for future generations of warriors. It's a testament to your journey, your struggles, and your unyielding desire to leave something meaningful behind. As you write, you reflect on the path that brought you here. Was it worth it? Did the glory outweigh the sacrifices? The answers remain elusive, buried beneath layers of regret and resilience. But one thing is clear: legends aren't born overnight. They're forged in fire. By now, you've fought enough. Battles to fill a lifetime, or at least a really long Netflix docuseries. But here's the thing about legacies: they're not built overnight. Every victory adds another layer to your story. But every loss, every near-death experience, shapes you in ways that no one sees until much later. You're not just Miyamoto Musashi anymore. You're a symbol, a myth in the making. And while people might talk about your duels or your dual sword technique, what they don't see are the quiet moments between the chaos. The nights spent staring into the fire, wondering if any of this is worth it. Let's rewind for a moment and talk about Kyoto again, because as much as you tried to leave it behind, the Yoshio clan wasn't done with you. Denito Yoshio, the headmaster's brother, wasn't about to let his family's honor be tarnished. Without a fight, he challenges you to a rematch, framing it as a matter of personal vengeance. Of course, you accept. Refusing would mean admitting weakness, and that's not an option. Besides, running away won't solve anything. If anything, it'll make you look like a coward, which is worse than losing. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours as you trade blows. Denito's blade slices through the air with precision, forcing you to dodge and counter faster than ever before. But then instinct kicks in. You switch to Niten Ichi Ryu, wielding both your wooden stick and a makeshift jita-like object you grabbed earlier. The change throws him off balance, giving you the opening you need. With a swift strike, you knock his sword from his grasp. Victory tastes sweet until you see the look in his eyes. Confusion mixed with fear. On instinct, you strike him down before he can recover. Another life lost, another ghost added to your growing collection. Fast forward a few years, and you find yourself in Kumamoto, working odd jobs to survive. You've fought in rebellions, supervised construction projects, and even adopted children, but tragedy strikes when one of them commits seppuku, leaving you devastated. Pain becomes a constant companion, shaping you in ways you don't fully understand yet. By the time you're 48, you finally discover your true passion, painting and poetry. These pursuits offer a glimpse of beauty in a world dominated by chaos, but they can't erase the memories of everything you've done. Neuralgia sets in, burning through your body like wildfire. Simple tasks become unbearable, and the once mighty warrior is reduced to living alone in a cave called Riando. Yet even in isolation, you refuse to give up. Using whatever strength remains, you begin writing your final masterpiece, the Book of Five Rings. In its pages, you pour everything you've learned about strategy, philosophy, and the art of war. It's not just a manual for future generations of warriors. It's a testament to your journey, your struggles, and your unyielding desire to leave something meaningful behind. By now, you've carved out a reputation that's equal parts awe-inspiring and terrifying. People don't just talk about your victories, they whisper about them. They tell stories of the man who wielded two swords like a force of nature, who could turn any duel into an art form. But what they don't see, the part no one talks about, is the toll it takes to live like this. Every victory feels hollow, every moment of peace fleeting. You're not just fighting opponents anymore, you're fighting yourself. And let me tell you, that's the hardest battle of all. Let's rewind again to Kyoto, because this city seems determined to haunt you. After slicing through the Yoshio clan's ambush, yes, including that poor 12-year-old boy, you thought you'd finally earned some breathing room. Spoiler alert, you didn't. Denito Yoshio isn't about to let his family's honor be trampled. Without a fight, he challenges you to a rematch, framing it as personal vengeance. Of course, you accept. Refusing would mean admitting weakness, and for someone like you, weakness is simply not an option. The duel takes place on neutral ground, far enough from prying eyes, but close enough for word to spread quickly afterward. Denito arrives armed, with a katana, his expression unreadable. You show up with your wooden stick, confident in your skills. The fight begins, and immediately you notice something different about him. Unlike his late brother, Denito fights smart. He studies your movements, looking for patterns, weaknesses. For the first time in a long time, you feel genuinely challenged. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about the moments you can't put into words, the ones that haunt you even in solitude, like the time you faced Arma Daisuke, the local mercenary. Known for his brutal efficiency, word travels fast, remember? So naturally, he heard about you and wanted to test his skills against yours. He challenged you to a duel, and despite your better judgment, you accepted. The duel itself plays out like something straight out of a legend. Arma swings his sword with ferocity, aiming to cleave you in half. You dodge, counter, and manage to knock his weapon from his grasp using nothing but a wooden stick. Victory tastes sweet, but it leaves a bitter aftertaste too. Because deep down, you know this won't be the last time someone tries to kill you. Paranoia becomes second nature. Walking into a tavern turns into scanning the room for threats. Sleeping at night means staying lightly, hand hovering near your katana, just in case someone tries sneaking up on you. Even harmless encounters, like bumping into a traveling merchant, leave you rattled. What if it hadn't been harmless? What if tomorrow night brings someone less forgiving? These kinds of questions keep you awake long after the fire dies down. And then there's the loneliness. Not the romanticized loner hero type either. No, this is the kind of loneliness that gnaws at your soul, reminding you daily that nobody truly understands what you've been through. Friends drift away. Potential mentors shy off. Even lovers hesitate before getting too close. Because who wants to cozy up to a guy whose reputation precedes him as the dude who kills people? Yet somehow you keep moving forward. Maybe it's pride, maybe it's desperation, or maybe it's something simpler, the stubborn belief that somewhere out there there's a purpose bigger than yourself, a reason why you've survived everything fate has thrown at you so far. Let's talk about Kyoto again, because this city seems determined to haunt you. After slicing through the Yoshio clan's ambush, yes, including that poor 12-year-old boy, you thought you'd finally earned some breathing room. Spoiler alert, you didn't. Denito Yoshio isn't about to let his family's honor be trampled. Without a fight, he challenges you to a rematch, framing it as personal vengeance. Of course, you accept. Refusing would mean admitting weakness, and for someone like you, weakness is simply not an option. By now, you've fought enough battles to fill a lifetime, or at least an HBO miniseries. But here's the thing about legacies. They're not built overnight. Every victory adds another layer to your story, but every loss, every near-death experience shapes you in ways that no one sees until much later. You're not just Miyamoto Musashi anymore. You're a symbol, a myth in the making. And while people might talk about your duels or your dual sword technique, what they don't see are the quiet moments between the chaos. The nights spent staring into the fire, wondering if any of this is worth it. Let's talk about endings, not the kind you find in fairy tales or Hollywood blockbusters, but the messy, unpolished kind that real life serves up, the kind where you don't get to ride off into the sunset with a sword slung over your shoulder and a smile on your face. No, this is the kind of ending where every breath feels like a victory, every moment alive is borrowed time, and every memory carries the weight of everything you've done and everything you've lost. By now, you're not just tired, you're exhausted. Physically, mentally, spiritually, neuralgia has taken hold of your body, burning through your nerves like wildfire. Simple tasks, things most people take for granted, like walking or holding a brush, become Herculean challenges. You retreat to a cave called Riando, far from the chaos of the world, seeking solitude and perhaps some semblance of peace. But even here, in isolation, the ghosts of your past follow you. They sit beside you as you write, whispering reminders of every duel, every death, every decision that led you to this moment. And yet, despite the pain, despite the loneliness, you refuse to give up. Using whatever strength remains in your frail body, you begin writing the Book of 5 Rings. It's more than just a manual for warriors, it's your legacy. In its pages, you pour everything you've learned about strategy, philosophy, and the art of war. But it's also something deeper, a reflection of who you are, who you were, and who you wanted to be. You write not just to teach others, but to make sense of your own journey, to leave behind something meaningful after a lifetime spent chasing greatness at any cost. As you write, you reflect on the path that brought you here. Was it worth it? Did the glory outweigh the sacrifices? The answers remain elusive, buried beneath layers of regret and resilience. There were moments of triumph. Yes, the duels you won, the techniques you pioneered, the fearlessness that became your trademark. But there were also moments of profound loss. The lives you took, the relationships you abandoned, the person you could have been if fate had dealt you a different hand. You think about Kyoto, the ambush by the Yoshio clan, the boy you killed before he even had a chance to fight back. That moment haunts you still, not because it was difficult, but because it was easy. Too easy. You think about Denito Yoshio, whose eyes burned with hatred as you struck him down, and Arma Daisuke, the mercenary whose confusion mirrored your own as you ended his life with nothing but a wooden stick. Each of these moments shaped you, chipping away at your humanity until all that remained was a weapon, a blade forged in fire, tempered by blood. But even weapons can dream. Even killers can seek beauty. By the time you're 48, living in Kumamoto, you discover a passion that offers solace in a way no duel ever could: painting and poetry. These pursuits allow you to create rather than destroy, to capture the fleeting beauty of the world around you instead of tearing it apart. For the first time in your life, you find joy not in victory, but in expression, in leaving something behind that isn't stained by violence. Still, old habits die hard. At 53, you're called upon once again to put down a rebellion for the Lord you serve. Someone throws a rock at you during the skirmish, knocking you off your horse. It's humiliating, infuriating, but also oddly fitting. After decades of wielding swords and striking down opponents, you're felled by something as simple as a stone. You return to your writing and painting, determined to focus on what truly matters now, leaving a mark that endures beyond the battlefield. Time passes, and eventually you reach the age of 61. Lung cancer takes hold, and you know your time is near. On June 13, 1645, sensing the end is close, you take a final bath, perhaps the only one you've ever taken as an adult. You dress in your finest clothes, tighten your belt, and insert your wakizashi into your sash. Seating your frail body on the ground, you pull one knee to your chest and stare out of the cave, observing the beauty and order of the world one last time. In one hand you hold your katana, in the other your cane, and then quietly, peacefully, you pass away. They say legends aren't born overnight, they're forged in fire. And if that's true, then yours was a life defined by flames, burning brighter, hotter, and longer than anyone else's. But fire consumes as much as it illuminates. And in the end, you were both its creator and its victim. Your story wasn't perfect, it wasn't clean, but it was yours. And maybe that's enough. Because when the desert wind whispers through the ruins of history, when the stones hum with echoes of civilizations long gone, your name will still be there. Miyamoto Musashi, not just a warrior, but a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. A reminder that even in the harshest deserts, even under the heaviest sands, the seeds of wonder, wisdom, and peace can take root and build a world that reaches for the stars.